Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of NAP News Now. My name's Alisa Tagg, and I'm the Association Director with the National Association of Activity Professionals. And joining us today, we have a special group of guests here. First of all, we have Colleen Knutson, who is our International Relations Director. Hello, Colleen. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have Hillary Woodhead from the NAPA-UK. Thank you for joining us, Hillary. And then,
hi, everyone.
Hello. And then we have Orquídea Tamayo-Mortera from the New Zealand organization. And then we also will have a special guest on video later from Australia. But we're so excited to have you ladies with us today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your various time zones. We know it's very early in the morning tomorrow with Orquídea. So thank you, Orquídea, for being here. And it's very late at night for Hillary. So thank you for staying up late. Thank you for getting up early, but we're super excited to have you with us this month, in the month of July, to talk about patriotism. I know at the beginning of the month, the United States celebrated their birthday. I know NAPA-UK later on celebrates their birthday. I don't know when New Zealand celebrates, so that'll be really fun to learn a little bit more about the history of your country too. But I thought it would be really awesome to get together this month to just talk about how the different things work out, how we celebrate the birth of our countries and our relationship with our country and everything of that nature. And I think that'll be super awesome to take the time to do that. So thank you again for joining us today. And welcome everybody else who's joining us via the internet, where hopefully you're having a good time there on Facebook with us as well. So let's just talk a little bit more about that, and let's just jump right in. And we'll start with you, Orquídea, if you would take a moment and just kind of talk about New Zealand and then talk about you and your professional organization. We'll just take a few minutes there.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, Morena, so that means good morning in Te Reo, in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So my name is Orquídea. I am actually a Mexican New Zealander, and I have been in Tamaki Makaurau, which is the city of Auckland, since 2007. I am what people will call in New Zealand a Mexi-Kiwi, right? So that's a combination of being a Mexican and being a New Zealander. And interesting enough, here in New Zealand, we feel proud to call ourselves Kiwis. And if you know what a kiwi is, it's actually a fruit, but at the same time, it's the national bird of the country. Funny enough, we just celebrated Maori Year, so that's Matariki, and it's the first time that we have it as an official public holiday in the country. So it was actually last Friday, and it is a big deal because it has never been properly acknowledged. And if you are aware about how we are as a country, we're very proud of the way that we embrace culture and cultural safety. And as a country, we go back to the Treaty of Waitangi, or Te Tiriti of Waitangi, which is basically the founding document of New Zealand as a country. So we acknowledged that in February. But yeah, Maori Year was last Friday. So very, very proud to be part of that. Very proud of being a Kiwi, or a Mexi-Kiwi myself. And patriotism. Okay, so patriotism, I have been doing a little bit of reflection about that, because we don't actually call it patriotism, because I think, well, I believe as a country, as New Zealanders, we just feel that love for Aotearoa, and we have this kind of attachment that it's a combination of different things, but it's about representing Aotearoa. So for example, today, I feel so proud to be representing New Zealand, right? Not just the organization, but when you say you are representing a country, it's actually a huge responsibility. It's not something to be taken for granted. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's about being mindful of, what you're saying, but also the way that you say it so that people can connect with you. If I can share a little bit more, and please feel free to stop me anytime, because otherwise we are so good at just keep talking.
Please share just a little bit more. That would be great.
So we have actually 3 national languages right? So English is actually not the first language of New Zealand. It's Te Reo Maori. The second one is New Zealand Sign Language. The last one is English. And what I found really interesting when I think about patriotism is that in New Zealand, you are encouraged to protect your own mother tongue. So in my case, it's Spanish. So since the moment that you arrive in New Zealand, it's about, okay, we want you to be proud of who you are. We want you to be proud of where you come from. We want you to understand why you are here in Aotearoa, but also to understand that so that we together can make Aotearoa a better place for all of us. And, you know, and it's about having that genuine concern for the well-being of the people of the country as a whole. It's about understanding, okay, well, I was born in Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz. I ended up somehow here in Tamaki Makaurau. I understand that I am Mexican, I speak Spanish, but I am embraced in New Zealand. Therefore, I am part of New Zealand because New Zealand is a multicultural country. And we have more countries, that more ethnicities that there are countries in the world living in just one city. So I think for us as Kiwis is that a special connection and affection for our country is about the personal identifications that we have. For example, calling ourselves a Kiwi or singing a wayata. And a wayata is a song. And funny enough, it's not even the national anthem, right? So when you are in a public space and someone starts tu tira maina iwi tato e, and then you hear everyone else singing the same song, and it's not even the New Zealand national anthem, but it's a wayata, and that's the way that we identify, right? So I think that's too much from me at this point in time. So I'm going to hand it over back to you guys.
No, Orquídea, that was fascinating. And I think it's really important for everyone to understand the culture. I did not know that New Zealand Sign Language would be like your number two language in your country. Yeah. I think that is fascinating in itself. And thank you for singing your anthem. I think that is beautiful as well. And, you know, every country has their anthem. That's one of the things that I like when I participate, because, you know, I'm a performer, right? But when I participate in the Olympics, I love hearing other countries' anthems, you know, played, because I think it's such a beautiful thing. And so perfectly said. Hillary, why don't you share a little bit more about the UK with us, United Kingdom?
Well, just a little bit about me, really, because I think, as Akida said, who are we in terms of our identity? Although I live in the south of England, so I live in Brighton, which is a little city about 100 miles from our capital in London. I am actually a Yorkshire lass through and through. So I grew up in North Yorkshire, which is in the north of England, and my ancestry is Irish. So my granddad's side were all Irish. So I think, again, as Akida said, you know, everybody that you come across in England, their ancestry somehow is as diverse as we all are here today. And I think that's our starting point at NAPA, really, is to really try and understand what patriotism or national pride means to the people that we support. And that could be incredibly diverse. And that's what's really exciting from an activity provider's point of view, because, you know, there's just always such a rich tapestry of history and individuals' ability to kind of describe their own identity or their families or their friends, you know, and what's kind of important to them in terms of the places that they've lived. So they may have a really strong connection to a country that they lived in for many, many years, but actually they weren't born there and they no longer live there, but it's a huge part of their identity. And they might have quite a bit of national pride about that country too. So I think patriotism is, I think, inadvertently, particularly in the UK, perhaps there has been some history around excluding certain groups when we talk about patriotism. But in recent years, I think that has really changed, and people are starting to think much more about individuality. How do people kind of identify in terms of their nationality, their culture, their religion? So, you know, it may well be that people are born in this country, but their ancestors might be from Pakistan, and therefore they, you know, they may feel a real connection to a country that they've never lived in, but yet is a big part of how they experience living in this country. So I think, you know, it's a fascinating topic. I don't think it's a straightforward topic. So when I was asked to speak, I did reflect too and think this is interesting. And I think in the UK we've had, over the last sort of 12-18 months, you know, we've lost our Queen, and we have a new king. And that in itself, even for people my age, who I thought perhaps wouldn't be as bothered as older people, for many people, that's really made them think about what it means to live in this country. Right down to, you know, big sporting events. And, you know, we have many national days because we're the UK, you know, we have a national day for Wales and for Ireland and for Scotland and for England. So there are lots of opportunities throughout the year, really, for us to think about who we are and what matters to us.
I love that. And I thank you for bringing that up, Hillary. I was curious how the country has been in relation to the transition, you know, from going from a queen to a king, and a beloved queen at that. And, you know, and I think that's the interesting focus of it all, you know, is like, even, you know, God Save the Queen. Oh no, now we have to sing God Save the King, you know. And you know, your money, that's the other thing that I thought was really interesting, all the changing over the money and everything else that takes place, you know, with the coronation. I loved watching it. I was one of those I watched all 4 hours of it. I was fascinated by the whole process of the changing, I guess you could say, of the leadership, and how much effort goes into it, and how much history was involved in it, you know, knowing that the bench that or the chair that he sat on, you know, and from the 1400s or something of that nature. I may be wrong, but I thought it was really interesting to do that. And, you know, as being a newer country in the United States, we really don't have a lot of those customs or identifications. You know, we've always been known as the melting pot, and I know that's changed over the course of the years, as well as we've done more with cultural identity and supporting each other from whatever country they come from. Colleen, how did you celebrate Independence Day, as we call it here, or the 4th of July, like everywhere else, right? So how did you do that in your community? Because Colleen, you know, I just preface that really quick. Colleen comes from a small town in the Midwest, so she's kind of the central heart of the United States. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that.
And just because of where I live, it's not necessarily nearly as diverse as the East Coast or the West Coast in the US.
Right.
But really what we just focus on is togetherness. Similar to what Hillary and Orquídea said, it was about gathering together the residents and celebrating our differences. We talked about history, we did trivia, we talked about the things that we love about the United States, and then we talked about the things that make us sad or make us angry, things that we would like to change. But it was a great opportunity, I think, to just connect person to person.
I love the fact that there's so much more reflection going on, like we've talked about already in this conversation, where it takes time, where we need to take the time to think and decide, you know, what we want to do. How do we want to be change makers, and what do we want to do differently? Even, you know, as I've become a grandmother over the last year, it's like, okay, so what kind of insight do I want to instill in my grandchild? You know, I'm not a grandmother on a rocking chair yet with my cute little gray hair, right? But I think it's important that, you know, we give something back to our children as well, whether they're our own children or the children that we work with, or anybody, you know, that we're giving back to the community. And we're talking about that community, patriotism, national pride, you know, looking at the concept of everything of that nature. Colleen, I know our friend from Australia could not support us today, be here, but could you take him? I know she sent in a little brief video. You want to introduce that to us?
I would love to. She took this very seriously. She wished she could be with us today, and then she couldn't. She created a PowerPoint and recorded it. And I loved that this was something that she hadn't really thought of before, comparing how we celebrate this in all different countries. So she'll talk about that a little bit too. But it's about 5 minutes, so I'd love to hop right into it if you're okay with that.
Perfect. Thank you.
We We practiced this, I promise.
That's okay. We'll get it there while you're getting it queued up. I just wanted to share with Hillary, somebody mentioned they love the thought that or the comment you made about it being a tapestry and everything weaving together. I love that. Perfect. There it is.
Yay, okay.
Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional owners of the lands of Mascot, Sydney, Australia, with which I record this presentation. I would also like to make note.
Did we lose the sound? Oh, Colleen, you'll need to unmute yourself. Sorry.
When asked to speak about what
I'm so
patriotism
sorry,
means,
hold on.
this.
That's okay. Yeah, you can't unmute or you can't mute.
I would also like to make note the following presentation is based on considerations and may not necessarily be the views of all people. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Renee Smith and I am the President of Australian Recreational Therapy Association. When asked to speak about what patriotism means within the context of Australian culture, I really had to come back to the definition and try and understand how this looks from an Australian perspective. The word patriotism is not often a word used regularly in the Australian vocabulary. However, I do know that Australians have very strong attachments to this land, and as per the definition, do have a love and devotion for its culture and country. Beauchamp in 2014 undertook a study and wanting to know the cultural attachment of Australians to Australia. 90% of Australians would define themselves as very proud or quite proud of the cultural attachment to country. There are so many ways that Australians demonstrate love and attachment and devotion to this land. For the purpose of this presentation, I will aim to briefly explore 3 areas which may feed into Australian patriotism. However, it is a very individual thing and there are so many other ways that Australians are patriotic to this land. So today I'll be exploring freedom, acknowledgement through Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, love of country and Indigenous Australians and multicultural Australia. It could be discussed that there is a strong affiliation to Australian patriotism through the recognition, commemoration, mourning and thankfulness for those who have and continue to serve for Australia in our armed forces. Anzac Day and Remembrance Day are those where we do recognise those who have returned and those who have previously and continue to ensure our safety and freedom. Yearly, we have these recognition ceremonies and they have certainly changed over time. It's important to know that when people come together at these ceremonies, there is still a lot of grief and sadness, but also coming together with past and present diggers means that it is a recognition of freedom and a coming together and thanking those who have afforded our freedom today. Australia is a huge land and has been inhabited by Indigenous Australians for over 65,000 years. We do recognise that the founding and colonisation of Australia has impacted greatly on the Australians' traditional owners. Within Australia, there are over 250 Indigenous languages and over 800 dialects, each specific to a particular place and people. Indigenous people have a very strong connection to country. Country is the earth from which life force grows and from which it should ultimately return. Country, the place that provides food, shelter and sustainable natural wealth. And country is the beauty of its trees, rocks, seas and creatures, and its sky overhead that is to be celebrated and shared for all who experience it. Connection to country and recognition of Indigenous people is also done through NAAP Week, Closing the Gap, National Sorry Day, Reconciliation Week and Mabo Day. Its history forming through important parts of our school curriculum as well now, and recognising traditional names for towns and places. And all of these could certainly form part of the patriotism for a shared love of country. The 2021 census and the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that nearly half or 49% of Australians who have been born overseas have one or both parents who are also born overseas, and where over 300 languages are spoken at home and where more than 300 ancestries are identified with. The growing number of first-generation migrants means that Australians' ancestry will change significantly over the next decade. Tim Soufan-Massanane, Race Discrimination Commissioner, 2014, quoted that it is important that our country comes together, and what we have here today is a display of multicultural patriotism, and this was at a Muslims Love Australia barbecue. He also went on to say that everyone here loves Australia, everyone here is loyal to Australia and has a deep commitment to this country. Tim also published in the Sydney Morning Herald in 2014, being a patriot means loving your country in a special way. The patriot is someone who is loyal to a national tradition, someone who believes their country has certain merits and achievements. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a tip of the iceberg of what patriotism means here for Australians and Australian people. And I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much. Bye.
I love that. Thank you, Renee. We're sorry that you couldn't be with us live, but that was very fascinating and highly educational. And I think it just shows typical activity professional, activity provider there, putting together a beautiful PowerPoint presentation in her absence, and how cool it was to hear, you know, the true definition of patriotism, and to see how much each one of us love our countries and love representing our country. And you're right, Orquídea, it is a big responsibility when you are the one to represent. I know we had that experience with you live at our conference, you know, and back in April. And, you know, I know it was a big responsibility you felt. And hopefully, Hillary, will have you live next year. I know we keep wanting to get you here, so hopefully it'll happen, and to work on that. And I know Renee shared information about Australia. Orquídea, how could we get a hold of you in New Zealand? What can we do?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the best way to get hold of us, it's pretty simple. You can go to the Facebook page. We are very active on a daily basis. So that's the New Zealand Society of Diversional and Recreational Therapy. You can visit our website. So that's www.diversionaltherapy.net.nz. Or you can flick us an email, because we have people all the time just, you know, asking questions about, hey, I want to go to New Zealand. Can I volunteer? I just want to have a look. Or can I come over and I can just visit one of the places? We are actually, you know, that's kind of the Kiwi way. Like, we just, you know, send us an email, send me a text, send me a WhatsApp, send me a messenger chat, and we will just welcome you anytime.
And just remember that you're 14 hours ahead of Eastern time zone.
Yes.
So everybody keep that in mind too. So if you choose to text her in the middle of the night, she'll respond accordingly. Right. Absolutely. Hillary, how could we get a hold of you in the UK?
Similar, really. We're very active on Facebook and Twitter. We have a Facebook group and a Facebook page, which are very, very active. And we've got a great website. So lots of information on the website. In fact, we've just launched a little resource around inclusive activities for patriotic activity and engagement. So have a look at that. I think Jana might just pop that in the chat. So yeah, lots of information available. And we also have a support line. So again, we take calls from all over the world and emails from all over the world, and that's a free service. So, you know, if ever you just want to find a little bit more about what's happening in England, in the UK, around activity and engagement, just drop us a line or give us a ring on that line.
Thank you so much. And Colleen, I want to give you a special thanks, because I know this has been one of your pet projects for the last several years, is to create these relationships with these beautiful ladies that we have representing today. But I know you've been able to create relationships with so many other countries that were unfortunately unable to join us today. And I would love for you just to share with everybody just a little brief bit, if you wouldn't mind, about everything that you've been working on as the International Relations Director.
Well, right now, the group of us, we call ourselves the Global Leaders. And the two wonderful women on the call here today have been extremely helpful with this. But we have different countries. We also have Japan, we have Canada. Who else am I missing? Orquídea and Hillary. Brett also, yes, from the US, yep. And we get together monthly or bi-monthly, and we talk about what's happening in our country. We share resources, we share education, we advertise each other's conferences and educational offerings. But what's really exciting is we have an international knowledge exchange that's coming up. And that will be virtual this year. It's going to be in
October.
Yeah, like that. And it's free of charge. And what's amazing is every week it's going to be a different person from a different organization hopping on. And then next year, we are hoping to do an in-person international knowledge exchange in Australia. I believe we're hoping for the February or April.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, February.
February.
But just being together and having these relationships is amazing because we're just people, and we see that we're experiencing and living the same things, maybe in a slightly different way all over the globe.
I really think that's been the key. You know, I think our first relationship was with Australia with Darren, who's no longer with the organization. And I know when we had our first conversation with Darren, he was like, well, these are the things that we're dealing with. And we all looked at each other and said, well, so are we, you know. And then Arcadia came on and same thing. And then Hillary's here, same thing, you know, that we're facing the same challenges. Especially post-COVID, we're facing even a bigger challenge of social isolation and trying to really encourage our residents to be active and engaged again. And I think maybe this might be a key to reminisce about their patriotism, to talk about, you know, the things that they love about their country, and to focus on just enjoying the moment and being one with each other. And NAAP will definitely have more information on the International Knowledge Exchange that'll be coming up in October, so that if anybody's viewing, they may want to participate. I think that's an amazing opportunity as well to really hear from these other countries and to learn. And also, you know, our good friends over at ATRA, you know, to have a relationship, you know, with NAP and ATRA as well too. So we're really excited about what the future holds. So thank you so much today, ladies. I want to just end with just your final words of wisdom. I always like to end our NAP News Now with that. So if you have just a final phrase or sentence, that would be awesome. We'll start with you, Hillary.
Oh, I knew you'd come to me first. I think for me, it's about inclusion, really. It's about starting with the person. And if we start with the person, we're never going to go far wrong, are we? I think we can have theme days and national days, but actually we always need to make sure that it's relevant to the person that we're engaging with. So I think for me, it's that what we've talked about, kind of the inclusive approach to patriotic activity and engagement.
Love it. Orchidia.
I think from me, and look, and this is actually from the people that we work with. It's encourage your own ethnicity, get to know your roots, because at the end of the day, we become our children's roots. Learn your political, social, historical, economic factors. Get involved, take action. We have a lot of elders that are, they are the social activists in the care home. So, and I think for us in New Zealand, and it's not just for us in Aotearoa, I think it's for everyone. Patriotism can be defined by, in Te Reo, it sounds something like this. E aha te mea nui o te hao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And that says, so what is the most important thing in this world? It's actually people. It's people, it's people, it's people. And I think that's why we are here today, because at the end of the day, we are one and we are all connected regardless of my culture and my abilities and my language. But it's about sharing, it's about collaborating. It's about solidarity. So thank you for the opportunity today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Colleen.
Be curious. Instead of being judgmental or guessing, just be curious.
Love that. I love that. And one of the songs that we sing in our country, America the Beautiful, it talks about from sea to shining sea. It talks about the great country of America. And I think even in your countries, you have the same thing, from sea to shining sea, depending on, we have oceans around us, we have waterways, we have lands, we have people. So I love the fact that we need to include others be curious of others, and also be curious of ourselves and know what our own ethnic backgrounds are. Key things to think about. And hopefully everybody that joined us today had a great time as much as I did. I loved this time together with you all. And so I would like to bid adieu at this time, and we will see you back here again with another great session on NAP News Now. All right, everybody, take care.
Thank you.